did you come from such a beautiful country?
I kind of snuck in here 12 years ago. First, people thought I was a little British. Oh, I love people from Toronto. I like that they're very polite. But I also thought that this was like the wild, wild west.
It's not bad for the first job.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that shocked me.
What makes the good picture stand out from the average picture?
That's a good question.
What was the hardest moment in your life?
Getting a lawyer for immigration, filling out the paperwork.
No funny stories at all?
Canadians are known for always saying sorry. Sorry is a really stupid word.
Going on, you didn't expect it.
I like portrait photography, editorial lifestyle, and I loved event photography. And I creatively or emotionally, I would have died.
Just with your language, did you have difficulties to find a job?
I was very lucky.
Actor's portfolio, family photo sessions, fashion shows, or a shooting for the catalog. All this makes the profession of the photographer one of the most prestigious professions in the world. And today, my guest is a photographer, an immigrant from Canada, Shari Hoffman. I'm very happy to introduce Shari Hoffman. She's a photographer and she's a very, very beautiful woman. Hi, Shari.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me your story. Why did you come from such a beautiful country? From one beautiful country to another beautiful country? What's the deal?
I came where the fish were swimming, but not for me, for my ex-husband at the time.
When was it?
This was 12 years ago.
12 years ago? Oh, so almost local.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was his decision, right, to move here?
Kind of. I think we both wanted to get out of Toronto. The winter was pretty cruel, you know,
Mm-hmm.
8 months of winter and then 4 months of humidity. And, you know, he was a filmmaker, so we just came where the fish swam.
I can relate. I lived in Minneapolis for 5 years. It's really cold.
It's like terrible.
But I know there is a huge film community in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was, and he was getting work, but we heard about AFI, the American Film Institute, mm-hmm. and so he wanted to go. So that was like one of the incentives in coming here.
How old were you when you moved here?
23.
23. Not too young, not too old, right? I think it's the perfect time.
Yeah.
What did you do at that time?
I was in school for graphic design. And I came here and I was doing photos as a hobby. And then someone just started asking, I started getting job offers to take photos. And it just became more and more prevalent and more often that I decided to go into photography.
But how did they know you are a photographer?
I did it as a hobby. I did it for my friends. I would take photos of them. I would weddings, birthday parties. It was more of just I would bring my camera with me wherever I went.
So they like your pictures and they asked you to come more and more, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite subject to photograph and why?
I like portrait photography, editorial lifestyle. Why? I like it because, I like the storytelling that goes with it. I like the humanity of someone's face, but also I would like to show something beyond the face, like something that's, you know, in the eyes or something atmospheric, you know, kind of like a lens onto, like almost like you're watching something vulnerable and at the same time romantic. Yeah.
I think it's a really good answer to this question. After all these 12 years here, how can you compare? What did you expect from the United States?
Initially, or just in general, like I could
In
say,
general, you had some expectation when you moved here, right?
there was like an underlying fear, the lack of social responsibility in healthcare, and I felt like that the U.S. was very litigious, like, the concept of suing someone was kind of all bets were off. I, yeah, I mean, if I were to, but I also thought that this was like the wild, wild west. Like I felt as though it was like a land of opportunity. Like you come here for, to hustle and to make it, and I think that the drive here has that energy. It's an energy of opportunity. Whereas when you live in a country that takes care of you, the it's more conservative. It's not as creative because it's kind of safer. It's you go to work and you come home and you buy a house and you have the kids and you have the white picket fence. Here it's you have to just hustle. It's more intense. It's also like it's more rewarding to a certain degree. You live for that dream.
For me, it just looks like it should be easier because you don't have to change your language. I just want to make sure, was it like, was it easier or no? Because for people, about the people from other countries, it's like really challenging when you can speak, when you move here and you had your language, you didn't have to change it.
Yeah. I mean, there is, it was interesting. At first, people thought I was a little British. They say that the way that I pronounced words was very sharp with the T's and the O's and the U's. But then when I would say I'm from Toronto, they would say, "Oh, I love people from Toronto. Like they're so nice. They're like the nicest people." And I always thought that was amusing because I don't think Toronto people are specifically nice. I think that they're very polite. And yeah, I don't know. Like it was kind of in that vein where people were judging me based off of those generalities. But it was. I mean, I won't say no if someone wants to like me.
Even you didn't have the difficulties with your language. Did you have difficulties to find a job?
I did because during the process of of becoming legal, I couldn't work on the books. I had to work off the books. So it was a cash jobs. My first job was a daycare teacher, taking care of babies.
That's not bad for the first job.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Terrible to other people. That's not bad.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, it was okay. It was nice.
Do you like to babysit kids, or it was hard for you?
I mean, I know how I grew up with 7 other siblings. I was like I was the second oldest, so I grew up with a lot of babies. Do I enjoy it? It's not it's not my first activity I would like to do, but I do like kids. They're great.
What was the most challenging in all this process of immigration?
I think, becoming legal, like going through getting the social, being able to work here, like on the books, was very difficult. Getting a lawyer for immigration, filling out the paperwork, getting married, and then it just seemed as though there was a lot of waiting, there was a lot of like jumping through hoops, like doing stuff wrong and then having to redo it, or and everything, it felt as though everything cost, like the minute, like any, like that added minute with the lawyer was like an extra cost, so you were trying to be as thorough and fast as possible, but you also had to be patient with yourself because then you could run into like that problem.
But when did you move? When you moved here, what kind of visa? Did you have just visitor visa, or?
I kind of snuck in here. We weren't married yet, my ex and I, and so we just said that we were going on a trip, And when we got here for the first 3 months, we just kind of enjoyed the lifestyle because LA is so different than Toronto in terms of the entertainment. And, you know, you wake up and you feel like you're on vacation every day with the palm trees and the weather. And then after 3 months, we got married. And then we started the process with like a lawyer.
I always thought that because Canada is so close to the United States, it makes the immigration process easier. No, you have to go through the same procedure as people from other countries. They need to apply for a visa, a work permit, or a green card, just like everyone else. Did you have something that shocked you a lot, that you didn't expect at all?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that shocked me. I think that for me, what shocked me was how nice everyone was, but how ingenuine it was. There was like an ingenuine, like it was more like, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back, that sort of thing. It was very, especially, I mean, in the industry the entertainment industry specifically, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think I don't know, I think the lifestyle here is just, demands a lot of acceptance and patience.
Have you ever wanted to come back home?
No.
At all?
No.
You don't miss Toronto at all?
No.
I
mean, I miss my family, but I don't miss the weather. I don't necessarily miss the lifestyle. It's a beautiful place. It just, I never really saw myself living there for the rest of my life.
How did you get from being an inspiring photographer to the place wherever you are right now?
I think when it comes to doing what you want to do, like a dream, following a dream, if you're creative, I think creative expression is it's important for creative expression to constantly exercise it and to constantly feed your creativity. I don't think art feeds you. I think you feed your art, and I think art itself, like your art, is a hungry animal. So if you don't feed it, then it'll destroy you, type thing. So I think it was about really engaging in this idea that, like, I wasn't doing it for money. I wasn't doing it I wasn't doing it for fame or for a name or anything. I was doing it just because there was nothing else left for me to do. I didn't have any other option. If I didn't do it, then I would have, I creatively or emotionally, I would have died. It was something that, like, I didn't even have a choice. And I think that when you kind of look at life in that creative way, where it's not, yeah, it's okay, you could hate it at times, but it's difficult. But I think, you know, it's a long-term relationship, and a lot of compromise, and a lot of and it's also, every single project was like another lesson, another PhD into what, you know, into the next thing. And it was, and it also fed into the next idea, you know, and you meet new people, and then you start collaborating with more people, and then your network becomes bigger, and the friendships become stronger, because after you work with people, then you start trusting them, and then you build that family, that creative family of people.
Did you take any classes at all? Did you?
Yeah, I went to Otis.
Otis? I just wanted you to explain to the people who wanted to be a photographer what kind of steps they should take. You know?
Oh, I think learning the technique and the technical, like, aspects of it, knowing your lighting, and also just inspiring yourself. I think, but I think technique is very important. My teacher used to always tell us, when someone asks you what you take photos of, you should be able to say everything, and after that, then you go into the creative mode, and then you go into, you know, you create something that you want to create, you know, but you could break the rules afterwards. But first and foremost, it's technique.
Did you know that the most expensive photography in the world was taken by Australian landscaper photographer Peter Lick? He set a new world record by selling one picture for $6.5 million. What makes the good picture stand out from the average picture?
I think that's an interesting question. I think it has to do with what you're thinking, like when you're taking the photo. What are you trying to say? I mean, from a reference point, I think knowledge is power, and I think that it's not only about photography in my life. It's about culture and stories and film and art, and then getting inspired by those things and implementing them into a photo. And I think you can tell a good photo from a bad photo because a good photo will make you feel something. It'll inspire you to build upon it. And you'll think, oh, I could have done something this clever, but I didn't. And what was this person thinking, and and you start noticing like the stillness, or you start noticing the opposite, the liveliness, or the violence, or the beauty of it, And I think it's more about the curiosity.
The most interesting question for me, and I believe for everyone else, how do you deal with a difficult client?
I believe in the idea of leaning into the sword. So if they're being difficult, then just move with them, because when you move with a client, if you push against them, then you just create more of that space of antagonism and difficulty. But if you listen to them, there's only so many places they could go until they realize that there's no place to go and you're trying to help them.
What kind of advice can you give to the models and to the people who are looking for the photographers?
That's a good question. I've been lucky. What I would say, what I would do is, if I were a model, I would look on social media of different photographers that are doing different types of shoots, and I would be messaging them or getting my agent from the modeling agency to message the photographer and ask them if they would do test shooting for them.
All of us, we have Instagram pages, and people look at them and look this beautiful LA and all this fancy lifestyle. What do you want people to know about the immigration to the United States, especially because they expecting, like this beautiful life, no worries. They think that this place is better than the place they live.
That's a good question. I will say, I think patience is very key, and I think patience in making friends and making a community. I think it was very easy to make friends. It was very hard to make quality friends. And I think what really, it took me about 3 years to really create something that was really sturdy and stable in terms of a friendship group. And then also kind of finding the comfort in rolling with it, like rolling with the punches. It's a hard place, but also recognizing that soon enough you'll be a native, and you'll know more about the city, but it gets lonely. Like there are times when it gets lonely, and just I think knowing where you could escape to have pleasure. And I'm not saying unhealthy escapes. Yeah. Like I'm saying find the beach you like, or find the downtown area you like to go to, or a place for dinner. And when you're feeling really low, go there. But celebrate the idea of finding places that you would enjoy going to.
How long did it take you to get from the work you don't like to the work you like a lot?
I think I always, it was always like a graduation almost. I would start with I started with family photos, and I loved it. And then I went from family photos to event photography. and I loved event photography, and I didn't want to do family photos anymore. And then I went from event photography to doing editorial and different types of editorial, and then like working, first by myself and doing, I was the one-stop shop, creatively, like styling and doing the makeup and doing everything, setting up the shot. And then that grew into like building a team and having someone who was, the stylist and the makeup and the hair and the model. And then it was also like just the concepts became richer and bigger, and then from those experiences, then that gave birth to jobs that were kind of surrounded in the same environments, where I was coming in. So,
did you have that moment when you thought, why did I move here? What was the hardest moment in your life?
I think right before COVID, I got a message from a friend in Italy, and he told me, he said, lockdown's going to happen. There's going to be a lockdown that's going to happen. You should get out of LA. And he was telling me about the lockdown in Italy. And I didn't believe him, but I didn't want to be locked down in LA. And that was like the first time I was like, maybe LA is not the best place for me to be. But at the same time, I mean, when it did happen, you just kind of like appreciating the idea that, the sun comes out every single day, that you could take a walk, that, that you were able to go outside, like you weren't in New York, or you weren't in a cold place where like you were stuck in a little bedroom apartment in the city, and yeah, it was, I was very lucky.
And you have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
So how is it to be, you're a single mom right now, right?
Yeah.
How is it to raise a daughter and being a single mom and be working mom?
Well, it definitely puts a fire underneath you. The drive to succeed is there. I remember when I had her, I wasn't working, and we were relying on my ex's income. And one thing I came to think about was, if something were to happen to him, then how would I provide for her? And what was I leaving her with? And so I made a decision there that I would work as hard as I could to create something where I could leave her with something valuable, whether it's her own creative eye and her own ability to, take photos, or or have something that she could like take with her in her job, But it was more. It's very difficult, but it's also rewarding. Like she's beautiful and funny, and yeah, she's great.
Is your ex-husband supportive? Is he helping you guys? Or?
Yes, my ex and I have, when we got married, because we got married pretty young, like at 22, 23, there was always this idea that the end of a marriage doesn't mean the end of a friendship. And after we had my daughter, it was evident that we were kind of stuck together, whether we liked it or not, for the rest of our lives. And so it just happens that, he makes more of an income, but, it would go both ways. If I was making more of an income than he was, then we'd be supporting each other regardless.
That is good. Not all the people can do this.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. Right? Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Each state in the United States has its own laws. And for me, the most funny one is in Mojave County, Arizona. If anyone is caught stealing the soap, he must wash himself with it until the soap is gone. And can you tell us the funny story that happens to you here? Happened to you, right?
The funny stories that happen.
No funny stories at all?
No, there are too many funny stories.
Too many? Oh, that's good.
So, okay, I'll tell you. I think I have one. So,
I mean, something maybe different between Canada, and the United States. You had something like going on, you didn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said it, but I'll go into detail. But um, there's like this idea, like people are always like, "Oh, you're from Toronto. Like, I love you already. Like, I don't even need to know who you are, because you're from Toronto, so you must be wonderful." And in Toronto, there's this like Canadians are known for always saying sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You know, like they bump into you, they say they're sorry for breathing in front of you, you know? And so everyone thinks like, oh, that they're so nice, you know? And I had gone back to Toronto and I realized that as much as they would say sorry, that there was like, it wasn't saying sorry like genuinely. There is something interesting. When someone says sorry, what they're really saying is, can we change the subject?
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So, like, let's change the subject now. I accepted that I did something too, but let's change the subject. So there is this feeling of like, you know, so I always get a kick out of it because Americans see it and they're like, oh, the Canadians are so polite and they're so nice. And I'm like, no, Canadians are trying to tell you to shut up and change the subject. You know? Like, get out of here, you know?
Right now I'm trying to realize if you said sorry to me, no?
No, I actually, I tried, yeah, no, and the same thing, I mean, one thing, my daughter today, I had apologized for something and she's like, and I said sorry, and she's like, sorry is a really stupid word. And I said, you're absolutely right, it is. I absolutely agree. I apologize, you know, but the meaning of that word alone, I find it so fascinating. And I do think that LA people, like, I think the weather here really affects the way that they think. When the vitamin D, I don't know, they're not stressed at all. It's like they walk around and it's like, and you know, they're kind of like more slow. Whereas like I find that the more East Coaster you go, the more intense, the more nervous, the more anxiety ridden, almost like the fear of rationale.
Maybe the sun, I don't know, but I noticed it as well.
Yeah.
And I believe the last one would be, I know a lot of people from the United States, they want to immigrate to Canada. They said, oh, it's better healthcare, it's easier to find jobs, it's not so stressed out. So what would you recommend them?
I mean, I think I live in LA for the lifestyle. I live in LA for the climate. I like the lifestyle. I like the climate. And it comes with you know, you pay for it in different ways. In Canada, I find that it's easy. Yes, it's easier with a job. It's easier with healthcare, but there's also long lineups for healthcare. There's also not as many upscale. Like it's safer and at the same time unsafer. If someone has cancer, then their lineup to get chemo is a lot longer unless they have Protexia or they have some sort of connection. And in terms of jobs, yeah, like jobs are quite easy to get in Toronto, but the creativity I find of getting like a creative job as a filmmaker or a stylist or anything, I think that's a lot harder because you're protected by the government to a certain degree, so you'll choose a safer job so that you could have leave. You know, like if you want to have a kid, then they pay for your income, half your income, like to give you leave for a year after you have the baby.
It's a year.
It's a year, but you have to work a certain amount of time in order to get that. And so you're paying for it in different ways. You're paying for it through this idea of like how much of a cowboy you are versus how much of a conservative and conservative person who wants the protection. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's pluses to both. I mean, I would not be able to live where it snows and it's cold. But I did. I just don't like it. But yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really interesting to get known Canada and the difference, because for me, as I was born in Ukraine, so for me it just looked everything like the same. It was like over the ocean, everything the same. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I want to remind you that we had Shari Hoffman. She is a photographer and she's a beautiful, strong woman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shari. Thank you so much.